Welcome to Caribou Country Lifestyle. My name is Cheryl, and today I thought we'd just do like a winter tour. We just got a bit of snow today, and it's January, and this is the first actual big amount of snow, and really it wasn't even that much. I think it's tried to snow here 3 times so far, and in our area, we live in the central interior. I live in the Caribou area, and this is unheard of. Last year, by this time, we were plowing snow like crazy. We get down to minus 30, 35. That hasn't happened either. We've had some highs of 7 degrees during the day and 0 at night. It's been a pretty mild winter, but we're kind of worried about that because then that means that things are going to be super dry in the summer, and we don't want to end up with fires either. So we had to be evacuated in 2017 from our house that we were in. We weren't in this house. We purchased this house in 2019. But in 2017, we were evacuated from our house, and we went to Kamloops for 2 weeks. And that was pretty unsettling, not knowing exactly if our house was going to be okay, if all of our personal belongings in our house was going to be okay. We packed up a lot of our pictures and things that meant a lot to us that we knew that we couldn't replace. But it was a very unsettling time, and so it concerns us when we don't have a lot of snow. Like, I am not a winter person as far as I'm concerned. I'm okay with not having a bunch of snow. My favorite seasons are spring, summer, and fall, not the winter. It's not my favorite time of the year. Kind of wanted to start off what we did to get to where we are now. So back in 2019, we purchased this house, and before we even moved into the house, we ripped out all of the carpets in the living room and dining room. They were just saturated in animal urine, and I was amazed we never smelt it when we come to look at the place, but I don't know why we never did. But once the previous owners moved out all of their stuff out of the house, the first thing, that's all we could smell was animal urine. And I was just, before we move in, we need to rip these carpets out. So my husband and my son ripped all the carpets out of the dining room and the living room, and we had to rip the carpet out of the master bedroom. So our number one renovation when we first moved in here was to do the master bedroom. So we, and the ensuite, we repainted all of the walls. We scraped the ceiling. It had a textured ceiling, and so we scraped the ceiling and just left it as a flat ceiling. Painted the ceiling, painted all the walls. We laid the floor down on it, and we ended up putting the vinyl plank flooring. And we bought enough that we could do the whole upstairs. Okay, in 2020, this was the first thing we did. We renovated this chicken coop. This chicken coop was here in this exact spot. This is the exact same building, but we gutted this chicken coop. It hadn't been used for probably 14, 15 years. So we gutted the whole inside of it, ripped the inside walls down. We ripped out all the, took out insulation. There was rat poop in there. It was filled with mouse poop. There were dead mouse carcasses in the walls, in the insulation. We took all the insulation out, and then we got rid of whatever insulation that was no good. And then we replaced the insulation that was still good and got rid of all the insulation that wasn't any good, and then put in new insulation where it needed to be. Jamie built new the chicken boxes so that they would have a place to lay their eggs. he split the chicken coop in half. So to about here, there's a wall. So this front part of the chicken coop, this is where we have all of the supplies. And that would be the pine shavings and the chicken feed. And we also have a frame for when because we usually get our chickens when they're a day old, and then we are a couple of days old, and then we raise them up from there. We order them through one of our local feed stores here in the Caribou. And then the next wall, I'm just going to show you. The next wall is right here, and that separates this chicken coop from a back chicken coop. So we have 2 chicken coops, and the reason why we have that is because we had quite a few chickens. We only have 23 right now, but we had at one point we had over 30 chickens, and then we also raise meat birds that we process ourselves. And so once the meat birds get big enough, we actually put them in that very back shop or back chicken coop, and they stay there until they're big enough that we can have them free range. We have an electric fence, and so we have them free range. So we totally renovated this, painted the whole outside. It used to be like a burnt orange brownie color, and so Jamie wanted to paint it red and white. So we did that. Then we also, it had the chain link fencing all around, and all of the posts that went around was metal posts that were cemented into the ground. We had a fellow come with his machine, and he pulled out the posts for us. And then Jamie put in these posts here, and we put all new fencing around. And so when we first started, we just got Rhode Island red chickens. Now, from what I can see, we have 4 Rhode Island red chickens, and these ones are going on their 4th year here with us. And those were the first chickens that we got, were the Rhode Island Reds. And I think we got just 10 back in 2020 when we first, that was our very first chickens, and this is what we built for the chickens. And then in the back you can see we have little ramps for the chickens to come down, and we don't have automatic chicken door openers. We have no problem coming out here and opening and closing them at the beginning and the end of the day. When we got that machine and we had it to pull out those posts where the chicken coop was, our next step was we had this area leveled. So we used that same machine and we had him level out this whole garden area here. And he also, Jamie had him dig holes in the ground for where each one of these posts, fence posts, were going to be going in. He dug down and dug the holes. And then Jamie put the fence posts in, cemented them in. We built raised beds first before we actually built the fence, because we needed to build the raised beds, and then we rolled the raised beds on into this part of the garden area. We built our raised beds over here where the back shop is, and that's where we built the raised beds. Now we built our raised beds, we repurposed. We had our barn on a previous property that we had collapsed, and it had a lot of these wooden spindles, and that's what the barn was built with. So we packed all these wooden spindles, we kept them, and we packed them over to this property, and we reused the wooden spindles to make the raised beds over on there for my raised beds. Then Jamie, he picked up some pressure treated lumber, and that was to frame the top of the raised beds and the bottom of the raised beds into the rectangle, and I'll show you that. So here, if we take a look, these are shorter raised beds that he built, because this actually still goes down on a slight decline towards the back. So as you notice on this shorter raised bed, he has a cement block that he's using to make the bed level. I'll just come around to this side so you can see. So he has a layer of blocks that he's put down on the ground to help level out this bed. See, we didn't get much snow. And then he also built these five larger beds, and these two smaller ones. So we had to have all these raised beds put in place before he could put that fence around here. And my reasoning for the raised beds is because I wanted vertical gardens. And with the vertical gardens, I could have my T-posts in. I bought the cattle panels to go up and over. I have one over there. I have it set up where I have the T-posts with the cattle panels up and over it. And that way I could maximize the amount that I could put into a raised bed. So I would plant maybe cucumbers or snap peas, and I would have them going up over the cattle panel, and then in front of it or underneath it, I could grow lots of other vegetables and maximize the amount of vegetables that I'd be able to grow. And if I needed something that was going over the panel, and then I put like a shade-loving vegetable underneath it, that could be spinach, it could be lettuce, it could, I'm just trying to think of what all likes to have shade. I plant a lot of lettuces, and I plant a couple of different varieties of spinach, and those are just some off the top of my head that I can think of what likes a shade. And then you want to plant the sun-loving vegetables on the other side where they're going to get full sun, and they're going to maximize, whether that's tomatoes, eggplant, peppers, cucumbers even love the sun. Snap peas, they don't mind it being a bit sunny, but they don't want full sun, and they don't really like the heat. That's when their growth seems to deplete, and they don't produce as many of your snap peas. Actually, I lied. We didn't put the raised beds in 2020. We built those raised beds in 2021. In 2020, we leveled out that garden, and all I did was I went and mounded dirt up and brought dirt in, mounded it up into makeshift raised beds. They were only about this high, and I tried planting vegetables into that. We didn't have the fence in yet neither. The problem with that is it's the deer, and the deer just ate all of my vegetables, pulled things out, ate the tops off of everything. Hence why we ended up building the fence. So the raised beds and the fence came in 2021. Also in 2021, after we had set up the raised beds, we had ordered pigs. So we wanted some pigs. We wanted to raise pigs to have our own meat. So we ended up getting this side of the house ready, and we put the fence up around here. And the fence, we also used, not only did we use this type of a fence, we also used the electric fence, and that was basically to train the pigs on the electric fence, so that would keep them in more so than this would, because I mean, if a pig wanted to get out of here, it could. But with the electric fence, once they realized that they were going to get zapped, it doesn't, pigs are pretty smart. They'll figure it out. So we ended up putting this fence around here, and we wanted the pigs over on this side so that they could root and dig everything up, because this was all grass before. So it was perfect. We actually did put a fence around my sour cherry tree that's in there, because we didn't want the pigs to be eating the bark off of the tree or digging it up or anything. We didn't want them to be disturbing the sour cherry tree. So we did put a fence ring around the sour cherry tree. But within, I think it was like a month, maybe a month and a half, that they had this whole area totally dug up for us, which was perfect. So then after that, we moved the pigs from this area to another area of the property. And we ended up laying black plastic all over this area, and we just let that rest. So we moved the pigs from this area, and we moved them along here. And this was a lot of fun trying to move them. We moved them from over on the other side of the house and down this little corridor over and straight through. And where we have these raised no dig beds over on this side, this is where we moved the pigs to next. Once we moved the pigs to over here, then we had a hut set up for the pigs, and we had them over here. We only had 2 pigs. They were sisters, and we got them in the middle of April, and then it was the middle of June. I think they had 1 more month because they were older. We got these ones, and we were told that they were about 4 months old. So we got these ones the middle of April, and we were going to butcher them in the middle of July. And a month before we were going to butcher them, I thought one of them was sick because she wasn't eating. And then the next day, wasn't that she was sick, she ended up having 7 babies. We had no idea. I mean, the guy that sold them to us obviously didn't know she was pregnant. And we didn't know we've never raised pigs before. We didn't know what we were doing. So she had 7 babies. Unfortunately, 3 of them didn't make it. She ended up rolling on a few of them while she was in labor. If we would have known that she was pregnant and going to be in labor, we would have came out here and helped her, but we had no clue. So she had the 7 babies, but 4 made it. So now we went from having 2 pigs to having 6 pigs. We're pig farmers. All of a sudden, overnight, we became pig farmers. So we still butchered the one sister that wasn't pregnant, and then we had to overwinter these pigs. So in 2021, we had to overwinter these pigs into 2022. And so we had these pigs here for, oh gosh, it must have been from June until the following April that we had these pigs over on this side. They had lots of space because they had as wide as it was across here, which is probably about 25 feet wide, and it's the full length of this cement wall all the way down. I have no idea how long that would be, but they had a lot of room and they loved it, and they were so much fun having those pigs. So we didn't butcher them until April of 2022.
my cat puts up with a lot. He is so good. She pulls, look at him pulling on his tail. She pulls on his tail. She is a pain, but he loves it. Eventually he gets to the point where he's had enough, but they're so much fun. So this is our puppy Callie. She is over a year old. Buzz is 2.5 years old. I'm pretty sure that's how old he is. Maybe he's 3. Maybe he's 3.5, I should say. But yeah, he's pretty easygoing. Callie, he's only going to put up with so much.
I came back over here because after we moved the pigs over to that other spot where I showed you, then in here, after I think we had the black plastic on for most of the summer, and then towards before it got cold, probably in about August, I would say. Oh, did you hear that? That was my puppy yelped. The cat had enough. She had ticked it off enough that it finally gave her a little you-know-what. So anyways, after we took the black plastic off, I had picked up strawberry plants from Canadian Tire, and I had them growing in one of the raised beds over in my raised bed garden area. And then I dug them up and I planted them over in here. At first I only had 2 rows of the strawberries. Then I got raspberries given to me from my sister, and I planted those over on that side, on the other side. So then this area ended up becoming my fruit tree berry area. And I have other fruit trees that I've planted over the last few years as well. Also in 2022, Jamie ended up starting his compost pile. And this compost pile, he has sheets of plywood. It's just old plywood that we have. He has sheets of plywood on the bottom of the compost, and that just makes it easier for him to be able to turn it. And then over the winter, he has the black plastic. He actually keeps it on pretty much all year round. So then we started collecting all the pine shavings from the chicken coop. We had the straw from the pig's hut that we were using as an insulation for the pigs to keep them warm. We were collecting the pig's poop. We have all of the plants that we had taken out of the garden. We were putting that in here. Jamie does a lot of woodwork projects, so he has a lot of sawdust that he actually puts in here too. We collect our grass clippings for when we're mowing the lawn. We put that in here. We rake up all the leaves. Oh, actually now I purchased myself a Ride-'em lawnmower back in 2022 as well, and I would run over all of the leaves from under the trees, and we would bag that up and add that into the compost too. So we have a lot of different ways of adding to this compost. I also, when I empty out all of my baskets, hanging baskets, pots that I have on the deck from flowers, cherry tomatoes, you name it, I empty all my pots with my dirt, and we put that into the compost too. And we used a lot of that compost in 2023. Now I have to go back a little bit, because in 2021 we got more chickens, but we decided to try the dual purpose chickens. And that was, you didn't know what you were going to get. You would get some roosters, you would get some hens. So the hens were fine because we'd keep them for laying eggs. But the roosters, we were told to wait until they were 16 weeks old
and then we butchered the roosters. But they were so small, I don't think I would ever do dual purpose chickens again. We're just strictly sticking to laying hens. I don't want roosters. But when we butchered them, they were so small. They were like just barely over 2 pounds. I mean, that's fine if you're just going to make soup with it, but there isn't a whole heck of a lot else that you could do with a 2-pound chicken. So anyways, the 2 types of chickens that we got were the black Australorp and the buff Orpingtons. So we had those in 2021. In 2022, we also get meat birds every year. And the first year, I think we only got 10 meat birds just to see what it was like. And then the next year, we ended up getting 30 meat birds because that worked out pretty good. And then we decided, well, 30 was too many. So I think we're happy with just sticking with 20, the happy in the middle. So this last year, we only got 20 meat birds. When I got new laying hens in 2023, I ended up getting the barred rocks. I heard they were really good egg producers, so I got the barred rocks. And because the reason why I got the barred rocks was because we had a bear incident and the bear ripped the doors right off of our chicken coop, got 4 of our chickens, and so we decided to get more chickens to replenish what we had lost from 2022 in October. In 2023, we got our chickens, we got the barred rocks, we got our meat birds, and then we also ordered 4 more pigs. We enjoyed raising those other pigs so good that we ordered 4 more pigs. And 2 of the pigs were going to be ours. One of them was going to be my son's, and the other one was being shared between my son's friend and a friend of ours. So we decided to situate the pigs behind the chicken coop so that they could dig this area up. I don't know what our plans are for this area now that we don't have the pigs. Like, we haven't really decided what we're going to use this space for, but I know Jamie wanted to build me a greenhouse, so I don't know if we built a greenhouse here, if it would get enough sun, but I don't know, I think it would. So I don't know, I might throw that idea out to him about putting in a greenhouse back here. But we only had the pigs, we got them in the middle of April, and I think we only had the pigs for about a month. And then we got a letter in the mail saying that we had to get rid of the pigs because our property isn't big enough to house pigs. And the guy was really good about it, the bylaw officer. He let us keep the pigs until it was the August long weekend, because we got this letter in the middle of May, so that was a month after we got the pigs, saying we had to get rid of these pigs. But he let us keep them here until the beginning of August, the August long weekend, and we took them into the butchers to have them butchered. Now, they were still small because they were only about 150 pounds each, and we couldn't get any bacon because they were so small. So we just got pork chops, steaks, roasts, ground pork, and that was it. That was all we got out of those pigs. So it's unfortunate that this property isn't big enough to house pigs. The previous owners had pigs, but that I found out after that they had complaints as well. So they said that this property is large enough to raise hens and to raise bees. I don't know if I'm really interested in raising bees. I think we're just going to stick with raising the chickens
the meat birds and having the gardens. So over here was where we had moved our pigs that we had gotten in 2022. We moved our pigs over onto this side, and as you notice, the sea can is there, and then over on this other side, that's where, up at the top, that's where the raised bed garden is. So down below here is where we had our pigs, and we had them dig all of this up as well. And the reason for us to have the pigs dig this area up was because we wanted to put in a few no-till raised garden beds. Anyways, we put in two, they're 3 feet wide and they're 33 feet long. We have two of these beds. And the dirt that we used for these was we mixed garden soil with the compost that Jamie was building over where I had showed you. And then we brought in all of this large bark mulch. And he got this bark mulch. He borrowed a dump trailer from one of his buddies, and he filled up this dump trailer with this large bark mulch that he had gotten from his work. It didn't cost us anything, so that was absolutely great. And I planted my brassicas, and I also I had squash, corn, and sweet potatoes planted in these beds, and it worked out great. Of course, we also had to fence around here. The deer are terrible. They are so bad for just ruining all your efforts as putting in a garden. They just come along and they ruin it. And I get that they need to live and they need to eat too, but I'm not doing all this work to feed them. So this next spring, we're hoping to add one more raised bed in here, a no-dig raised bed, and it will be the same. It'll be 3 feet long, 3 feet wide by 33 feet long. I don't even know if it will be 33 feet long because this area kind of narrows off when you get down to that side. So, oh, and another thing I never thought to mention, I was saying that where we had housed the pigs behind the chicken coop, I think.
So you see this tree in the middle here that goes all the way up there? He actually would like to remove that tree. And then he said if he removes that tree, then we could build a greenhouse in the back here. That was his thoughts of doing that. And actually, that wouldn't be a bad location neither, because it is close to where I am gardening, and even in these no dig beds in here too. So that might be an option too.
Okay, the last installment that we made on the farm in 2023 was Jamie built me this circular bed, and I'm using it for some perennial flowers, and also I had some herbs growing in it last year. Now, some of the perennial flowers that will come back are the carnations, foxglove, I have lilies in here, I have columbines in here, and then I have a few plants like chamomile that might end up reseeding itself in here. The holy basil, tulsi, that could have reseeded itself and will come back again in the spring. So this was the last thing that Jamie put in for me in 2023. He put this in, and then we put all the bark mulch in around here as well, not only down on the bottom where I have my no dig raised beds, but we put it in here, and that will help suppress the weeds. On here we put a few layers of newspaper down first. We wet it, and then we put the bark mulch over top to help suppress the weeds. And when there is a weed that comes up through this bark mulch, it's so easy to pull out. So it's nice having this here. We're hoping to get more bark mulch again in this coming spring, because we have just a small area over there in the U-shaped garden that still needs bark mulch, and then we want to put it over on the berry side in between the rows of the strawberries and around. I have elderberries, haskcaps, blueberries, I have my sour cherry tree, and I have a blue plum tree over there, so we'd like to get bark mulch over there as well, and we're planning on laying cardboard down on that side before we put the bark mulch on top of it to help suppress the weeds there as well. So in 2023 of my growing season, I tried growing potatoes in pig feed bags. And I mean, on the most part, it worked all right. The potatoes didn't get really, really big. I think I was able to harvest 3 varieties, and then the other 4 varieties, I let them go too long, and we had a lot of things going on. Just was a really busy time, and we had a death in the family as well there, and so we were gone quite a bit in Vancouver, back and forth. So the other 4 varieties unfortunately ended up freezing, and I had to dump them all out. But I was saying in my video that for this growing season in 2024, I would like Jamie to build me a raised bed, basically from where he has a frame of wood coming down on this side, so it's comes out about a foot away from the fence, so that I can grow things to climb up this fence. And then I was thinking that he could build me a raised bed that would come out about 3 feet and come all the way down the length of this sea can right to where it meets the pavement at the front of this back shop. And where we are at this back shop, this is actually the area that we use to process the chickens. So we rent a chicken plucker, and we have it set up here. We lift up this big door. Inside the back shop, we actually have a counter set up that we use, and there's a sink to it. We bring our hose, we use it to wash off the chickens. Jamie, we set up, I have a great big burner, a propane burner, and we have a big pot of water that we sit on there, and we dip the chickens in there, put them on the chicken plucker, plucks all the feathers off. Jamie hands it to me. I pluck off the excess feathers that didn't get plucked off when he was plucking it with the chicken plucker. Then he guts the chickens, cleans them all out on the inside. He passes it to me. I rinse them all out, and then we put them in the cold ice water so that they can get cool enough before we put them into the bags and put them into the freezer. Last year we usually order 10 of the Cornish cross, the broiler chickens, and 10 of the Western rustics. We've decided that we're not going to bother dealing with the Western rustics anymore. They're just a smaller bird that we're just going to have the white broiler chickens,
the Cornish cross, we're just going to raise those. We'll get 20 of those, and instead of waiting the full 10 weeks before we butcher them, we'll do it at about 8 or 9 weeks, just a week or two before, and that way they won't be quite as big. Our chickens, when we do process them over the years, they range in from 3 pounds up to 7 or 8 pounds, depending on how long you let them go. So we don't really want them quite that big. 6 pounds is large enough. That's a good size. Anywhere from 4 to 6 pounds is a nice sized chicken for us. And here is where all my gardening starts. This is the very first plant stand frame that Jamie built me. He got these lights from one of his previous works. It was Caribou Road Services, and they had these ballasts of shop lights that they were going to throw in the garbage. And so he asked if he could have some of them, and they said help yourself. So he ended up building this wonderful frame for these lights, and I am able to put 16 flats of flowers on that one stand. Now, in Christmas of 2021, he built me, or no, sorry, the Christmas of 2021, he bought me LED lights so I could have more lights. We were still going to keep this one, so then he built me a new frame for these new LED lights, and he had it all set up for me in the beginning of 2023. So I'm going to show you that stand as well. Disregard the mess that's on there. It has kind of become a dumping ground. We were organizing and going through some boxes, and so Jamie ended up putting some stuff on some of the shelves, but I'll show you that stand that he made me as well. So over here is my other stand, and he picked me up 4 sets of lights, so I have another 2 shelves of plants that I can set up, so that gives me another 8 flats that I can fit on this stand. I have 24 flats that I can fit on there. Now I also use this window here, and this is in the basement. We have patio doors here. I use this window, so these are my geraniums that I dug up and I've put on this tray in this window, and then I come down here every couple of weeks and I give them some water. So I'm overwintering these ones. I notice I have one here that doesn't look like it's made it, but that's okay because it looks like all the rest are doing pretty good. And eventually I will be sectioning these off and starting new plants from these plants here. And these are, I have a salmon geranium, a red geranium, and then I also had a mix of different colors in geraniums as well. So I have these that I will overwinter, and then I'll have them ready for in the spring. So what I've been doing so far in the winter, I've started organizing all my little plant tags. So I've separated them all. I have flowers here, I have vegetables here, and then I have herbs in the front. So I've just started organizing that. I got myself a new calendar so that I can keep track of when I'm going to be starting my seeds as well. So I like to use my calendar, and also I have my graph paper that I use. And so each year that I've lived here, I have done a new sheet. So this was my setup for 2021. I did a new one in 2022, and then a guide in 2023, and then I will do up a new one, and I just have this pad of graph paper, and I'll do up a new one for 2024. And I like to refer back through each of the years and kind of look and kind of decide which ones did the best and how I would change my setup with my plants. Like last year, I put some of my cattle panels on in a different position on different beds. I put some of them on the two shorter beds instead of having them all on the 5 taller beds, raised beds. So I tried that last year. I didn't really like that setup. The only reason I didn't like it was because I also like to hang wind chimes and other decorative things hanging from those panels because they are kind of like an arbor. And when I had them on those shorter beds, when you went to walk underneath it, you were banging your head on the wind chimes. I know that's not a big, huge deal, but I don't know. I just, aesthetically pleasing, I like it set up the other way where they were over the higher beds and it was just more of an arch over those two beds so that I could hang things off of it and I wasn't bumping into it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I just wanted to kind of do a little winter tour of around our property. I don't know if I said that our property is 1.25 acres, and that was the reason behind why our property wasn't big enough to house pigs. So it is 1.25 acres. It was a little disheartening knowing that we weren't going to be able to raise pigs anymore, but I guess we'll just carry on with raising our hens and raising meat birds and having some awesome gardens. So anyways, I just want to say thanks for joining me and Happy New Year into 2024.